Welcome back, everyone. It's June 13th, 2020. I'm Jerry Hall, and here's the view from Costa Rica. Not much to see here on Fiat Link, so let's get into what I believe is the good news. The Congress held a digital dollar hearing on Thursday, June 11th. I tuned in. I was encouraged by the fact that there was an explicit need represented by the members of our Congress that are in that particular committee and had opportunities to share. So it's become very, very clear that through the first round of the CARES Act, there have been some faux pas as it pertains to the distribution of stimulus to certain segments of the population. Okay, great. Causal analysis, why? Well, handwritten checks had to be dispersed to folks that aren't necessarily banked, but yet are citizens and entitled to that care relief. What does that mean? Well, it basically boils down to the most needy of the population. The people who were in the most need of that stimulus didn't get it. Okay, what are they going to do about it? Well, they need to implement faster, more efficient technologies to get that job done. The Digital Dollar Project is one such solution. But really, that's only part of the solution. How would the digital dollar work with the Treasury, the IRS, the Federal Reserve Bank? Well, I believe that answer was provided to us in simple English from a former Ripple employee. That's right, Mr. Bob Way. Now, I remember when Bob came on the scene, Bob did some interviews or some question and answer videos with a couple of our favorite YouTubers, Mr. Alex Cobb and Brad Kimes. And I remember when I was watching those, that some secret sauce type stuff came out. Now, I reviewed Brad Kimes' video, asked him if I could cut some clips. He said, sure. Brad, I want to thank you for being generous, and I do appreciate your permission to use clips from that interview. However, I was not able to find specifically what I wanted for this video, but I did find it in Alex Cobb. Now, I reached out to Alex on Twitter in a DM. I said, hey, Alex, I'd like to use the clip. Alex has not responded. As a matter of fact, Alex has never responded to anything I've put out. So I'm going to publicly say now, Alex, I'm going to take the route of asking for forgiveness because I was not able to attain your permission. With that being said, let me get to the point. Bob is going to outline, and we're going to hear his words, the relevance of synchronization as it pertains to the banking industry, whether it be a Federal Reserve Bank, a correspondent prime broker bank, and even regional banks. These two elements together, the need, right, this established need by Congress to facilitate a smooth, efficient means in which to get money that they're allocating to the recipients that it's allocated for. Let me take you to that conversation with Bob Way and let you hear for yourself exactly how he describes it.
Not trying to pump XRP at all, but the reason I think XRP has an advantage there is because we're actively working on that, talking to banks around the world. And like, who else is?
I know. I said the other day, I'm like, find me another crypto project that has a specific team just to engage with central banks.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
so just when you know it's, so there's like one event I am waiting to see, just for everybody who's like going, what is Bob waiting to see that's gonna make Bob go, oh, right? So you you'd see, if you watched past year and a half, you'll see some press releases by the Federal Reserve about the faster payments and the faster payments task force. And then you'll see some stuff, Bank of England, about the future of payments and their system there. And it's really prominent in the Bank of England things that they published called synchronization. And synchronization is really what they called what we're doing with Ripple and ILP as atomic payments across multiple countries. And so everybody's looking at that. I talk to lots of bankers and clearing centers in the US, and people totally get synchronized payments because it takes a million failure cases out that are really expensive to deal with. So as soon as you see somebody going, oh, we're doing serious testing between any two central banks, whether it's Bank of England, I think India started talking about some of this, with any two central banks to say, we want to do these synchronized payments from one bank in our country to another bank in your other country through the central bank and these synchronizing settlement transactions. That's huge because everybody wants to be the first, second customer of that, right? And so like every central banker knows the value of that. They're just going, do I want to be absolutely first or do I want to be the second group to join in? And so once that happens, it will completely blow up. And that means all payments are changed. And that is the big door opening for XRP
if
in the middle of everything.
If a central bank ends up leveraging Ripple, that bank, has monetary authority on the rest of the banks in that country. So that's kind of like if a central bank was theoretically to adopt the technology, that's kind of like they're a big role model for the rest of the banks in that country. So if all those smaller banks see that, hey, the big Federal Reserve, hey, they're using this new digital asset, it's kind of like the domino theory that they would end up following because it's a bigger player adopting a new technology.
Yeah, and I'm scared because I haven't laid enough background on synchronized payments. But if you go to your bank and you say, I need to send, if I go to my bank and say, I need to send this, $10,000 to Alex there in California, 3 different accounting transactions are happening there. My bank is debiting my account, and then they're talking to a little lady in the back room, in the wire room, and she's sending a message to the Federal Reserve to debit my bank's account and credit Alex's bank's account. And then they're getting a message at Alex's bank going, oh, there's some money here. Now we've got to debit this other settlement account and credit Alex's account. And if any one of those 3 steps has an error case or screws up, the payment gets lost, and then people pick up phones and have to do that. And so, for a settled transaction through the wire system, they charge like $35 minimum. And sometimes that $35 to send, and the other person pays $35 to receive. It's like crazy amounts of money because the average wire transfer is over $4 million in the US. And so, but the average small payment transfer, which is ACH, much less efficient, is there. So what synchronized payments mean is I don't get debited out of my account unless and until Alex gets credited his account. So it happens simultaneously. And once you string that together through the US Central Bank, where all 3 of those accounting systems are synchronized, and the European or say Bank of England there, and the correspondent and delivery banks are synchronized to that and synchronized to the US system, then, I don't get debited sending the money unless and until the person gets credited in Europe basically instantly, and nothing gets lost and we minimize cost. And then there's amazing shit that I haven't even begun to start talking about that opens up the ecosystem to find folks like you to get in the middle of the payment flows and make your own money.
So those were Bob's words. Now, this entire concept of synchronized payments is so compelling. Now, if it happens that Congress is able to nudge, urge, demand, influence the Federal Reserve to work with Ripple for synchronized payments within the United States. And we're talking US dollar issuance from the Fed to US dollar recipients being the citizens. XRP most likely does not have any role there. However, let's take it one step further. We know that the digital dollar project is partnered and working with Accenture. Now, Accenture is also working with and partnered with Ripple. These guys are so connected throughout the world. They take proprietary technology of their partners, and do integration. This is not connecting impossible dots. These are real, publicly made available partnerships and could produce the desired results. But I'm really interested in the real use case for XRP in a system like this. Now, Bob talked about the Bank of England, and it's because there was a lot of documentation from the Bank of England, Mark Carney being the governor, and talking about digital assets and talking about real-time gross settlement systems, and all those things are true. They were discussed. The Bank of England was a publicly announced Ripple partner, but we haven't heard anything lately. What we have heard lately is that Ripple met with Brazil's central bank. Brad and his team got on Zoom. I'm assuming he was in a tie and not in his casuals like his all hands video that we just saw the other day. Him and his team met with the Brazilian central bank governor, as well as the finance minister and several other prominent members of the quote unquote banking elite in Brazil. We also have that coupled with the fact that there is publicly announced bank in Brazil signed as a RippleNet partner. Now, it's not a stretch to see that over the last 2.5 years, Ripple's central bank team, working with central banks, various central banks around the world, forming relationships, doing proof of concepts, that this COVID event could spark the implementation of the technology needed to reduce frictions in not just the United States financial system, but other countries around the globe. And what we know is once two central banks are on board, synchronizing payments through RippleNet, it literally is game, set, match. This is the adoption event we've been waiting for. And I'll tell you why. It really all plays into this entire narrative of supply and demand. Just quickly, some market dynamics that we all need to be very aware of. In the crypto space, these are elements of demand, and that is the retail demand. And it's reflected in the prices that we see here on these coin reporting sites, Coin Pavrika, Live Coin Watch, even Coin Market Cap, as well as Fiat Link. There's institutional investor demand. These are the Morgan Creek Capitals, the digital currency group. Now, when we look at retail demand, there's a very strong case to be made that retail demand is pretty much exhausted. The fervor that was there in 2017 at the end, and even through a large part of 2018, has kind of stabilized itself. The hordes are not coming in to crypto, and they're certainly not coming in to XRP. Now, this institutional investor demand has been increasing. It has. However, its primary focus has been on Bitcoin, in some degree Ethereum. But the talking heads, the Mike Novogratz, the Barry Silberts, and even some of the most respected analysts in the world, i.e. Raoul Pal, they're talking about Bitcoin. There's all kinds of stories that can be told about that. I'm not going to speculate. However, that's the truth. It's been about Bitcoin. So that's why XRP isn't doing much in this space. But let's take a look at the last and what I believe is the most important demand dynamic, and that is RippleNet partner demand. Now, currently, since the MoneyGram deal and the US to Mexican peso corridor has proven itself to be a reliable, fast, cost-effective technology, it hasn't grown like many of us have expected it to grow. Now, we do see other corridors that are doing well and growing, but not gobbling up the demand that we need to see it gobble up. Well, should this synchronized payment narrative take root and the Federal Reserve adopt RippleNet, and a central bank like the Central Bank of Brazil, the Bank of England, should happen to come on board, things could get exciting quickly. Let's take a look at a couple of the quick supply dynamics. These are inflows of the asset into the marketplace. You have Ripple founders sales. I'm talking about Jed. I'm talking about if Chris or Arthur or any of the fellows decide to capitalize because maybe they want to buy a new house or put solar on their roof. I don't know. But that is a factor in the demand equation because they're adding supply to the ecosystem. How about what's been the biggest driver of that supply into this marketplace? It's been Ripple itself through its sales, programmatic and OTC. But what we've seen over the last 2 quarters plus is Ripple making a very concerted effort to minimize their distribution of XRP into the marketplace. I commend Ripple for that. There's a lot of reasons why, which we won't get into right now, but it's important to understand these things. Market dynamics matter: retail demand, institutional investor demand, and RippleNet partner demand, as well as the supply side of Ripple Inc. sales, Ripple founder sales, as well as the retail public putting tokens that they have previously invested in back into the ecosystem. This supply and demand story is going to be one that I'm sure we're going to talk about in great detail for a long time. So here's a couple of quick facts I want you to keep your eyes on. This will help you understand the retail demand side, and I'll close it out with this. I like to deal a lot in facts, in statistics, but I also can take a look at the big picture. But here are some actual tangible things that you can aggregate yourself to kind of get an understanding of what's shaking. Here's a fact. Twitter traffic about XRP It's down 16% year over year. How about the noise on Telegraph threads? It's down 63% a year. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that we're not growing. The XRP community isn't growing. Actively vocal participants in the XRP public forums, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Telegraph, XRP chat, whatever, those numbers are down. It's no surprise that the price is down. Let's stay committed to what we believe in and know that the infrastructure continues to get stronger. The foundation gets stronger. I am more committed now to the long-term prosperity of this project than I have ever been. Taking a look back in history and hearing Bob Way's words, coupled with the manifestation of the relationships that are going public, I am optimistic. However, I'm also a realist. This is not going to happen tomorrow, but every day we get closer and closer. Folks, those have been my thoughts. I want to take a second and thank everyone who participated in the chat of my subscriber thank you video. If you are gaining value from the content that I'm creating, please subscribe, hit the like button, repost it on Twitter and Facebook, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Am I drawing lines here that shouldn't be drawn? Am I seeing something based in a confirmation bias that I have? I want it to happen, therefore I'm seeing it manifest? Or is this real? Is the narrative that I bought into 2 years ago unfolding before my eyes? Or am I just some old fat guy in Costa Rica who's delusional? I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about that. Hey folks, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, Pura Vida.